Welcome to day 7 of the 12 stories of Easter. Thank you for joining us again. And it is time for us to open up our egg and see what's inside. So day 7's egg has a crown of thorns in it. Let's go to Scripture and listen for how the crown of thorns plays a part in Jesus' last week.
Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they slapped him in the face. Once more Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered there, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify, crucify!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him."
Thank you, Finley, for reading the scripture lesson today. So there's a few stories that happened before our scripture lesson today that I just really wanted to quickly let you know what was happening. So the last time we talked, Jesus was in front of the religious leaders of his day, and he was being tried, and he was convicted of saying that he was God, which he really is. And so according to their customs, he should have been put to death. But the Jewish population couldn't put him to death, so they took him to the Roman government, who was the authority of the day, the people who were in charge. And as the Roman governor was Pilate, who you heard about in the story. And so the Jewish leaders brought forth all of their charges against Jesus, all of the things that he had done that they thought proved that he deserved to die. And so Pilate was here, he heard all of the evidence, and he was like, "No, I don't think this is the right course of action. We should not put him to death." But the religious leaders stirred up the crowd and they said, "You must crucify him. You must crucify him." And it was turning into a really scary situation. A lot of people screaming and shouting that Jesus should die. If you remember where we began with the story of Palm Sunday and Jesus riding into the town with a donkey. And the people thought he was a king. And we think of kings like this, a big crown bestowed on top of their heads. It's got a lot of color. It's got a lot of jewels on it. And this is what the people thought Jesus was. But it ended up a few days later, Pilate handed him over after being convinced by the crowd to take sticks and to mold it into a crown of thorns. This is not comfortable. This is painful. And they pushed it down onto his head, trying to mock him, trying to make fun of him, because he said he was the King of the Jews. He was God. And this was his humiliation. But Pilate here had a very important role. And it's a role that I think you and I can take more seriously. Pilate said, "I don't want anything to do with this man and his death. So I'm not even going to make a judgment or ruling. If you want to do what you say you want to do, you go ahead, you take him and you kill him yourself." And that is the wrong attitude to take. When we see someone being bullied, maybe they're being pushed around on the playground, maybe someone's calling them names, we should not take the approach that the Pilate took here. We should take the approach of intervening. Maybe it's telling a teacher that you see someone being pushed around in the playground. Or maybe it's saying, no, stop calling people names if it's inside your classroom. But don't be like Pilate here. Have the ability to say, hey, this isn't right, and to try to correct it as best as you can. And that's what happens when good people stand up for things. Pilate could have ended this, but he didn't. And we can end some of the issues that people are having in our schools of bullying if we just have the courage to maybe tell a teacher if someone's being made fun of or if someone's being pushed around. And so that's what I want to encourage you with today. I hope you come back tomorrow as we learn more about the last week of Jesus' life. See you then.